Streaming now on IWTV. New Texas Pro. Check our schedule for all future New Texas Pro events, including the Texas Contender Series. Watch over 70 New Texas Pro shows anytime on demand. Featuring Stephen Wolf, Fly Death, Rachel Rose, and the Bounty Hunter, Brian Keith.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Business podcast. I am your co-host, JP John Posh from the two-man power trip. Of course, joining me is the doctor himself, Mr. Lavie Margolin. Lavie, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, John. I believe last time we left, I didn't yet have a copy of Ultimate Fighters, unless I'm confusing podcasts. But just wanted to share that the copy is here now.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Thank you. Got it. Yes, got it.
Looking great in New Jersey there.
Yes.
So as the guy said from Three Man Band once, I have kids. So support the book, Ultimate Fighters, Donald Trump, Dana White, and UFC's Road to the White House. Kind of a cousin to the pro wrestling book, Trump Mania, but even more advanced, even more well-written, even more exciting, bigger, badder on the road to the White House.
And, of course, you can get it on Amazon, right?
Yes, get on Amazon worldwide. I've even been, in case you didn't know, anyone that has an Amazon account, you can actually sign into any Amazon in the world. So some people have been requesting it in the UK, checking in on Amazon UK, getting it out there that way. So it's worldwide, baby.
Love that. Awesome stuff, of course, with your ongoing Trump books, which are all great. Let's talk about something that maybe is great or could be great or isn't great right now. What is going on and what's the latest with Triller?
Yeah, this is such a business of the business story just because we're fortunate to know so many of the parties here. We've had guests from Triller. We've had guests that are certainly involved with Triller Plus very much, especially GCW. And most prominently for this story, at least, Adam Abdallah, who's really been killing it in the pro wrestling and cultural space recently. You know, he was had a foot and toe in the water, whatever you would say, with Jersey Championship Wrestling, from which I believe he's now stepped down as booker so he can concentrate on some other things. And then, of course, there was the event in Queens recently that he talked about on the show. And then suddenly he's raising some investors here to try and make a bid on Triller Plus, you know, the Triller TV, the old Fight Plus. So as first reported by Mike Johnson, exclusive, Triller TV has new suitor seeking ownership of combat sports streaming service. Triller TV, the combat sports service known as Fight, has a new suitor. Orange Crush, headed by Adam Abdallah, is currently assembling a private funding to purchase what was once Fight and extricate it from Triller TV ownership. Abdallah, head of the New York City public relations powerhouse Cultural Council, sits on the board of several artistic and historical institutions and is well connected. This past Thursday in Miami, Abdallah launched Game Time Sessions, the first ever museum-led cultural. The same day, he had a new boxing documentary out. He created something called Sunset Flip, having the artwork of Thekla and Moriarty, so obviously involved a lot. But PW Insider, is told part of Abdallah's plan for Triller TV is to bring music videos back to the forefront by incorporating them along with movies onto the platform to augment the combat sports component. In the wrestling space, beyond publishing Orange Crush, Abdallah recently announced he's launching Produce. That looks actually quite intriguing. A new promotion and concept set to debut this June with events in the city and New Jersey. He recently exited his role for Jersey Championship Wrestling to focus on Produce. So a lot going on here, John, a lot to speculate on. So the first thing is that we've had reports of Triller being behind on its payments. So how behind is it, and for who? And if you're acquiring something like this, how much baggage are you carrying on, right? Like on its own, right, they have a working platform that's been able to carry multiple streams at one time. So that's a good thing. they have what I assume is a pretty big email list at this point, where whether it's people subscribing for a free thing or actual subscriber accounts, you have that. You have some platforms moving away. So as PW Insider also reported, that AEW Plus, you can no longer sign up through Triller. You have to do so otherwise, but you'll be able to keep it for now. So there's a lot of baggage here. And then there's like something which makes a lot of sense for Adam, because he's very involved in things like music, documentaries, art. But I don't know if that's like what people are coming to a platform for. Sometimes when you try and combine too much into like a wrestling or fighting platform, it's too much. So I guess it's really all about the price and the commitment. And then of course with Adam exiting Jersey Championship Wrestling, that begs the question, no rumors here, that, what's the relationship with Game Changer Wrestling now? And Triller is the one that's, I would assume, speculating, that is the biggest revenue driver to Game Changer Wrestling. And if Adam and Orange Crush were to acquire it, I would assume that they'd be looking to cut down on those costs, maybe restructure a relationship like that. So a lot up in the air. What do you think, John?
I'm very fascinated. Adam's, obviously we had him on the show before. He seems like a very busy guy. He's got a lot going on. He's like taking over the world here. I love it. Love his aspiration there and his hustle.
Yeah, and the art thing is always fun to see. Sometimes maybe it's like too much, but really interesting story. Eyes wide open. He's not coming in as a newbie that's not familiar with the platform, how people feel about it in the industry, all the other things that he has going on. So it'd be really curious to see. And I'm not even sure if Triller is looking to sell it. So how far advanced this is. But once things settle in a bit, I think it's harder to talk about while it's in motion. But once things settle in a bit, one way or another, we'd love to have Adam back on the show.
I'd love to know how much it'd be worth, like when you buy it. You know what I mean? I wonder what the dollar sign would be, the amount.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think like part of it is contingent on how desperate they are. The stock still at the penny stock is like jumping around like crazy. At one point it was 0 or maybe like a fraction of 0. And then the next day it was 18 cents. So like I posted on X, it was like a 13,000% increase. So it's like, wow, what if I was able to put down $1,000 on that rate? That's like $13 million.
Yeah,
so
oh my God,
if my math is correct. Yeah, so a lot going on. And then if there's a lot of debt, maybe it's just like assuming the debt, to get it off the books for Triller so they could streamline that. So maybe it's not so much a direct price, but sometimes an assumption of debt. But obviously, whoever's raising money has to have enough capital. But yeah, the price will be really interesting. As a public company, we'd assume we know the price at some point, but obviously they're catching up on their financials. So who knows?
Man, that's just one of those things where it's like, is it really for sale? You know what I mean? Like that's kind of crazy, but I love it.
Yeah, we'll be watching closely. I kind of slowed down a little bit on the Triller updates because what's there more to say, right? Once it's floating around 0, but obviously a really intriguing story and what had been one of the cornerstones of sort of streaming, not only for the larger independent companies, but some of the more challenging brands. So that's all up in the air.
So what about TNA Wrestling? What is going on with TNA right now?
Sorry, John. I knocked my earbuds out. So I'm assuming.
I was going to say TNA. I was going to say what's going on with TNA Wrestling. I was going to say, wait, you don't want to talk about TNA? I'm shocked. You love talking about TNA.
Yeah, one wrong movement. I need those like the earbuds. I need to sync them, John. But like when I move with the wireless, I'm just I was going to assume it was TNA, but didn't want to go too far afield there. So. One of the interesting things on X where people were starting to notice what we've been talking about, that attendance has been down, especially with the focus on the upcoming big event, whether they call it premium live events themselves or pay-per-views soon. Of course, the show in Cleveland at the Wolstein Center. But let's start, in terms of order. So as we're recording this, tonight is the beginning of a double shot at the Ilario Center in New Orleans. This has 2,162 seats on the map in terms of I believe a cut down seating arrangement. 1,195 tickets with a current setup of 1,341. So it is possible that they distribute some more tickets before showtime and sort of call it a sellout. So that would be semantic. I don't want to get into that with Dave Penzer again. But March 28th. So obviously a double shot is always a struggle unless they're both key events. 652 for the next day. So in what's likely a cost-saving move. April 11th. Cleveland, just because this venue is so big, 13,443, people are looking at it closely. Tickets distributed 1,656 with a setup of 4,619 on April 11th. So we'll see how that picks up. Syracuse, the On Center. As referenced in the Ultimate Fighters, it was supposed to be the site of a UFC. Actually, the debut of the Smashing Machine, but that didn't come till a year later because he went to Syracuse. So that would have been nice alignment. Tickets distributed 755, and the following day 698. Sacramento 496, just very early. They're just in the pre-sale now, so nothing to panic about. 456 the next day, and most significantly, John, Slammiversary coming back to Long Island. So what do you think, John? Is this something that you build momentum because it was such a thing last year that people want to experience it themselves, or the second year you have a little bit of fatigue and it's harder to get a big number?
That's what I feel like. It just seems like that way with wrestling. Even looking at WrestleMania, they're having fatigue, and it's so obviously the price point too. But you're going back to the same venue, the same time. It's harder to kind of have repeat success when you're doing the same thing. That's why you got to spread it around and do it someplace differently. I was shocked to see that they're going to the same venue again, just because you kind of thought maybe you learned your lesson from WWE doing it, and obviously they didn't learn their lesson.
So. I agree. I don't think they could do it the same way, but if they take a different approach, then it could be a unique thing, because TNA does have a lot of people, at least online, that are big supporters, but there's not necessarily a gathering point for them. So this could be something if you work out some bus trips, some ticket package deals, make it a convention, maybe a honor stars from the region, maybe some people that aren't affiliated with WWE. You'd make it a thing. I don't know if there's independents that they have great relationships with here, but make it a destination, and then you could really do something with it.
Yeah, I don't know. You got to do something if you're going to do the same venue to kind of spice it up. I know obviously we were kind of thinking, oh, maybe eventually AJ Styles would wrestle on the show instead of just appearing, and obviously he's retired, so that's not happening. So what could they do to kind of spice it up and add something extra? Doing that kind of stuff is great too, but what could they do with the card, unless they're going to have more WB guys on it? I don't know. I just have a problem thinking wow, you're going to draw the same or better in the same venue, but you're not doing anything to kind of make it, super different or separated. So to me, I kind of just don't like the idea. I hate to say it, but I just don't like the idea.
Okay, I just got the best worst idea ever, John.
Yes, let's go.
July, total nonstop agony.
Whoa, Russo, he'll be there.
Russo, book promotion, invasion of the Juggalos. Can you imagine how much attention that would get?
That's actually a crazy idea, but you're right. Attention-wise, people would definitely pay attention to it, and the Juggalos travel, so that might not be a bad idea.
That's a good point. I mean, I was always so big on it with GCW, it never seemed to happen, but here you have even more history. And they booed Dixie Carter. Maybe she comes back as sort of disgruntled. Bischoff, he's been writing it. You have a worked shoot angle. It's not the worst idea. It could be actually.
I kind of like it. I know it's out there, it's out of the box, but hey, come on. We know the Juggalos travel. We know Russo's a lightning rod. Why not?
Yeah, and I think though, like realistically, this will all come down. Like we don't know how many tickets have actually been given away, and next week we are planning a special episode. But the one after that, I'm going to look at the quarter to quarter comparison, not only first quarter of 25 to 26, but also to see like in terms of recently, maybe last quarter of 25 to 26, to see how tickets are down. And we'll never know probably, but my suspicion is that a fair amount of tickets were being distributed to, sort of gussy up the pig for AMC to make it look a little bit hotter than it was, to get them on television. But that's my pure speculation.
Now, what is going on with New Japan Pro Wrestling? Because I didn't even notice this. That obviously you got the G1 coming up in Chicago, but man, they open up the seats for 7,000. That is just nuts. No way they're going to get even close to that. I don't think. So, what's going on with New Japan Pro Wrestling?
Yeah, but New Japan in the US, just when you're going to count them out, they're like, come back and they have like a big house and big show. They haven't opened up the whole venue because, according to WrestleTix, 9,444, but 7,813 available right now. WrestleTix has it at the moment as 2,262 tickets distributed. Sometimes there's like a correction that they have. So I'm waiting a little bit on that to see if this holds up, but starting out hot and even doing like over 1,500 tickets, I think is impressive. Whatever they ultimately scale it, and I guess you're making it a little bit harder for yourself. If you've opened up seats and then you have to move people down or whatever it may be, but they're certainly off to a good start, and there's still life left in New Japan in the US, even as a standalone. If it's a big event, G1 Classic means a lot to people. Chicago has always been a great city for New Japan, so something certainly to watch.
I just thought that was crazy. I was like, wait, what the hell? It's like you just sold 2,700 tickets, which is awesome in Jersey. Then you selling 2,200 tickets so far in Chicago, which would probably maybe balloon up to 3,000. But then I saw 7,000. I was like, holy crap, that is like ambitious as hell if they're going to keep it like that.
I guess, like maybe one of the concepts is because the cheapest ticket is fairly cheap, especially in today's world, just under $32. Like, you have tickets for everyone. Expensive tickets, cheap tickets, and it's hard to sell cheap tickets if you only have like 2,500 seats open or 3,000. So to hedge your bets, you could sell the cheap tickets, and then worst comes to worst, you can move them down later.
How about your favorite promotion of all time, TJPW? What is going on with them?
Yeah, certainly curious here. Now, a lot of things coming out of this Texas run. Like we talked about, South by Southwest. Obviously, that's a win just to be affiliated with them, even though the South by Southwest doesn't feel like as big a thing as it used to be. But in terms of a smaller space there, it looked pretty full, and they had some buzz there. But here at College Park Center, which is in terms of the map that WrestleTix had, 6,429 tickets. I think it could be even larger. So ultimately, they distributed 1,297. I believe they did better last year in Texas in a different part, Houston, I think. So I don't know. Is it a win? Is it not? Was it too ambitious? It seems like it was too ambitious. Did they lose money? We don't know. There was a number of shows, so sort of like it sort of evens out in a way, but we'll know as they're getting more aggressive here in U.S. promotions outside of WrestleMania weekend, I think, where they're already committed, that whether they come back and for how many shows and so on. I would say like something like this, it probably was too ambitious. It seems like the type of thing that's better experienced like in a 2,000 seat theater or club rather than like, uppermost part of like a riser of like a semi-major arena.
Pretty another kind of like ambitious thing here. Now, what is going on with 1FW? I always see cool stuff that they're doing. I see Jeff Jarrett, I see Arn Anderson. I see like all this cool stuff. What's going on with 1FW? Are they trying to make a play here? Are they trying to keep it small? What are they doing?
I think there's just the opportunity. You have Arn Anderson on the market. His son wrestles, so this is their territory. So I think it was a good win for them that they ran the Forum River Center, which has like minor league hockey and arena football type programming and so on. So 1,300 fans there. Thank you for those who packed the Forum River Center and made one FW Rumble in Rome, Arn Anderson Homecoming, Unforgettable Night. So then there was a story by the Marietta Daily Journal about it. The enforcer was, and let me acknowledge the name here, by Matthew Brown. The enforcer was not going to stand by and watch somebody get involved in his son's match when Brady Pierce's manager tried to get into the steel cage. Anderson got him out of the way. Brock Anderson's team, which included whomever, including Billy Gunn, got the victory. This night belonged to the Anderson family. Billed as the Anderson Homecoming, the Rumble in Rome featured several names and up-and-coming stars in sports entertainment under the 1FW banner. Fans also saw Jarrett go all over the arena with award-winning actor Paul Walter Hauser in a tables match. Championship changed hands with Ray Lloyd Glacier, that's awesome, make a run-in to show he is still a chilling force. Not only did these stars do their thing in the ring, but they also took time to meet the fans in the autograph. One lucky attendee won a guitar autographed by Jarrett. QT Marshall is the 1FW guy. He had the best match on the show with Andrade El Idolio. To bring a more local flavor to the show, Primetime Wrestling of Lindale was showcased with a tag team championship match. And veteran broadcaster Tony Schiavone conducted an in-ring interview with Anderson, stating that the relationship went back to 1985, and he knew he would be calling an outstanding match when it involved Anderson. Before the show, Anderson took time to speak with the paper. It was in Rome where his dreams to become a professional wrestler began. He remembered Rome as a small town, a great town, which if you grow up and attend high school, there's not a lot of high-paying jobs. So if you're going to pursue a career, you probably ought to move on up the road to Atlanta, which is what I did. Let's see if there's anything a little bit more contemporary. But Anderson, I was infatuated with it every Thursday, and I can't tell you the exact year. They're running wrestling here about once a month on Thursday. I was able to come to a couple of matches live, and I was really hooked watching it on TV. So just an amazing opportunity to bring in a legend, into their hometown, even if they're retired already. And breaking this morning, the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant at 83 is having his last match, I believe, in South Carolina in a high school. So good luck to the Boogie Woogie Man. I have a new appreciation for how well he did in the independents by listening to the awesome podcast Outlaws to Independence. I remember Boogie Woogie Man was one of the first people I sort of noticed in the wrestling magazines, because in his late 40s with the long beard and I think a very strict vegan lifestyle and tattoos, he looked like in his 70s then. So the fact that he's 83 now is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that is nuts, just to think about it. But that makes sense because he's been wrestling forever. The freaking Valiant brothers, WWF tag team champs in the 70s. So yeah, he's been around forever. It's crazy to think he's 83, but that is quite remarkable. I love he's getting the last right into the sunset there. I love when those old guys get the respect.
Yeah, I wonder if Ric Flair's looking at it
yeah, wait, what is
going
on here? Yeah. Now, interestingly enough, Super Clash, presented by House of Glory, is coming up. Or actually, it happened, right? It did happen. It was associated with the big event, which was a really big deal, really big convention in New York, that Rick Martel made his first appearance, I think, in 14 years or something like that, to a convention, and he did really well. And then there was somebody else. Oh, Don Morocco, Goldberg. They had a bunch of good, rare guys at the convention. So tell us about House of Glory.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought up Rick Martel, because I love that video of somebody dressing up like him as the model, and I have so much more appreciation for the career of Rick Martel overall, because before he got injured at the last run in WCW, he was great, with Booker T, the TV title series. His AWA run was great. I discovered Strikeforce after I was a fan, with old videos, the model, all that stuff, but. And then he was almost in a tag team coming back, right? A model tag team that didn't work out. But good idea in terms of having a wrestling show, right? You have all those wrestling fans there. Last time, of course, with Mercedes Moné, they did really well. This time, not as well. Only they can decide what makes the most sense for them financially. But it was kind of a little bit less than a half house. This part of the Suffolk Credit Union Arena had listed a capacity of WrestleTix had a seat count of 1,429, a setup of 1,165 with 628 in attendance. So curious to see as they have more, because this seems to be a semi-annual event, big event. So we'll see if there's more HOG along the way.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because the convention did probably better almost than the House Glory show, which is crazy to say.
Yeah, I think there's certain fans, that don't cross over as much anymore. They're like, yeah, I love the old guys. I want to get those pictures, like classic show, like rather than like go see wrestling. I guess it's like similar to like if you have I think they do this, right? Like at the like Hall of Fame inductions, they'll have like a game. I guess that's a more special thing. But if you'd imagine like a minor league game and chance to see like the old timers, probably most people are just like pointed towards the old timers.
Definitely. So what about Major League Wrestling, MLW? What is the latest?
Yes. So what is the latest? So they're doing quite well with their, as we talked about week to week, venue selection. The CMLL New Japan Fantastica Mania show. All the reserve seats are sold out, or maybe there was actually one lonely seat in the second row. In their follow-up taping, their debut in, I believe, Tennessee, that's looking pretty good as well. The Melrose Ballroom, there's some time there, a fair amount of seats still left. Plenty. Actually, Melrose Ballroom, I have the numbers from WrestleTix. So in terms of the reserve seats, because there's a standing room also, 250 tickets distributed of 295, but 2,300 arena. That's where it looks the weakest right now. Lots of wrestling competition. Fourth rope passed through there very quietly. GCW, of course, has a one night only, which is hot. And somewhat humorously, MLW keeps advertising the video package editors. They've been advertising it for 2 years. It's remote. And our friend Isaac, that punk Isaac on X, wrote, I was the most requested to join them in their comment section at one point, and I've never heard back. So I'm not sure why they keep advertising this position if they're not looking to fill it, but I guess that's a lot of the business world.
Interesting. I was wondering what Isaac was referring to there. Interesting. That position's been out there for like, would you say, over 2 years, right? Crazy.
Yeah, and as we've talked about, recently, the production jobs there are always like constantly shifting, if not the talent, right? They signed a few talents recently. There was an announcement there. There hasn't been anyone recently announced as leaving, but sometimes like it seems like things are on the right road, and then suddenly like somebody is like, it feels like abruptly leaving.
Now, what is going on with RAF, Real American Freestyle? It honestly, it was crazy to say, it seems like they're on a bit of a roll. Like everybody kind of counted them out from the beginning. They didn't think they were going to be successful, and it just seems like they're way more successful than people thought. They've got UFC guys kind of going into business for themselves, creating feuds, which they love because they just jump right on it. But I noticed that like they'll create like their own little feud. They'll go into business for themselves. RAF gets behind it. Boom, they sell more tickets. So, I mean, it just seems to be a good formula working out. So what's the latest on Real American Freestyle right now? It seems like they're doing good.
Yeah, they are doing fairly well. I think that's such a good point, John, because I think the biggest threat right now to RAF is sort of like being at the whim of TKO. If UFC is like, yeah, you're under contract to us, like, let's stop this now. We don't want you to get hurt or anything like that. And they lose the stars. There's so much of a benefit to having a current star, but still, I think even if somebody wasn't a wrestler, but they were a UFC fighter, you could even like drop them in to here and get a lot of mileage out of it. So it's like a nice connection, because I think jiu-jitsu is kind of, as a current practitioner for 3 months, a trainee, it's probably a little bit boring to watch. People would say that about amateur wrestling too, but they've kind of found a way to produce it really well. So At Tampa, 3,087 seats distributed for a show that's taking place tomorrow. So if we were to like talk about not using the full venue, we have to be fair and include REF in that too, because this venue is almost 10,000 seats. But for an upstart promotion the way they are, I think that's, has to be considered a success. So Tampa Beacon, John Cote had a really interesting article as well. So I'm going to read at least a portion of it. REF is trying to do something that wrestling purists have created for years, but promoters have largely failed to pull off. Turn the purest of combat sports into a true professional league without the bad acting and soap opera storylines. And why not? Co-founder Bronstein says many of the successful organizations have partly built their success on converting former wrestlers to something else. It's time for the wrestlers to have their thing. What was lacking in the wrestling world was there was never a professional league. The big stage for athletes, for the best wrestlers in the world. So I think that everyone embraced it. Going forward a little bit, previously those wrestlers had no place in the U.S. All its monthly events stream live on Fox Nation with additional reach on Amazon Prime and FS1. REF's deal with Fox Nation is through 2028. And Bronstein says it is the #1 rated programming on the service, with REF's social media clips doing big numbers as well. While the production is slick, it is wrestling the personalities that will sell the tickets. Bronstein said Bischoff delivers a speech to the wrestlers each week, encouraging them to embrace the spotlight, lead into the rivals at least, and let the fans see who they already are. David Carr is taken to going by King Carr and walks out to a crowd and so on. So a really interesting article, and I recommend that you seek it out.
Man, RAF seems to be kicking ass and taking names. Definitely social media buzz, that's for sure. And speaking of social media buzz and social media gains, what's the latest with Romy and what she put out there? And of course, all the wrestling organizations and wrestlers as far as social media gains.
Yeah, our friend Romy Glazer, a 3-time guest of the show, of course, has a really cool idea that she discussed last time that she was on. I believe it's booknitro.com, where she tracks the growth of promotions. So it's not those who have the most social media, but like the most growth week to week. So most social media gains in terms of promotions, Lucha Libre AAA. So, we could see if there's a big week, in terms of WWE affiliate spotlight. OVW. So I'm going to assume that this growth was because of the terrible incident with the referee. PW Revolver, JCW, so whatever wacky thing they're up to, and NXT, 40% growth. Now, let me see. And now in terms of wrestlers, there wasn't as much of a gigantic leap, but Ricky Sosa of TNA, 5%. Carly Bravo of Ring of Honor, almost 5%. Dustin Jackson, OVW, 4.5%. Katie Arquette, Wrestling Revolver, 4%. El Grande Americano, so who we know, 4%. Danhausen, not a surprise. Kendall Gray and Lady Flamer. That's one I won't get into too much, but a lot of videos going around, about her outfit and so on, which is the type of thing that can take something viral as well.
Man, it just seems like tremendous growth, especially Lucha Libre Online AAA. It's definitely a Lucha Libre AAA, just absolutely killing it there. 87% growth. I love looking at that. Kendall Gray too, big growth, and obviously she's become more popular on NXT. Very cool.
Yeah, I think it's, I'm sure they're looking for as many big opportunities as they can for AAA, but it's great that you're sort of, especially with the American market, you're creating like a big awareness. If you were going to distribute something bigger than YouTube, which I imagine that they're aspiring to, they're not unknowns anymore. You've really created an awareness in the market.
So as far as Lucha Libre is concerned, what is the latest? What is the comings and goings of Lucha Libre?
So just an interesting article on RTE by David Conlin. Is Lucha Libre becoming a victim of its own success in Mexico. The colorful sport has long provided cheap thrills in Mexico City, but growing popularity, gentrification, and higher prices are changing this. I think RTA does a lot of articles about gentrification. So sort of if you look at everything through that lens, everything might be, not to take away from the article, but just giving a little bit of context. Lucha Libre is enjoying a moment. Mexico's homegrown version of wrestling has never been more popular. While growing visibility has helped to grow lucha, there have been some downsides, like ongoing gentrification. Wrestling arrived in Mexico in the 1800s. Let me just skip ahead. Nowadays, lucha occupies a central position in Mexican popular culture. Individual luchadors have stage names such as the iconic Hurricane Ramirez. By the way, I have to mention Hurricane Ramirez. Across the street from the school where I work, there's actually a bar that is called, I don't know if it's called Hurricane Ramirez, but it has actually a picture of him, like a really nice stand recreation or whatever it may be with his picture. So I haven't had the chance yet to go into the bar. Probably not a good idea, in the middle of the workday, maybe afterwards to check it out. And wear colorful spandex, which usually includes a mask. Let me just skip ahead. Anthropologist Heather Lavie describes it as sitting on the border between his sports theater and rituals. But where is it today? Let's see. So this ties in with the wider question of gentrification in Mexico City, a phenomenon that has impacted on property prices and the cost of living. Ironically, the capital's two biggest lucha arenas are located in Tepito and Doctores, which continues to be two of the most disadvantaged areas in Mexico and haven't yet enjoyed any of the investment that is supposed to accompany gentrification. Indeed, travel guide Lonely Planet is careful to point out that while Arena Mexico is close to the fashionable Roma district, Doctores itself is rough around the edges. So a lot going on there in Mexico. Definitely seek out the article if you want to learn more.
Good stuff there. Love some Lucha Libre and obviously some different things about it. But what is going on with OVW? Because we were talking about them a little bit before with, obviously the incident that happened with the referee Dallas Edwards. We've talked about this. So what is the message from them? Is there any updates as far as what's going on with OVW and maybe some safety protocols?
Yeah, so that's the main thing, that obviously they knew they screwed up. How it was acknowledged maybe could have been improved. We didn't reach out to the owners of OVW, although we do have a line on that. So maybe when things calm down, that'll be something we'll reach out and discuss it as one of the topics. But there's concussion safety, in-ring and back office communication, safety protocols. It does, it won't change what happened. Thankfully, it wasn't a tragic event. I think we hope that everyone will be fine, in the end. But, that's an important thing. Like whenever there's a gap, like, okay, you know what to do if a wrestler gets hurt or whatever it may be. But no one's ever thought or should have thought about what happens to the referee. And if it's not just getting physically hurt, but, they're having a seizure or something that needs more attention, like how do you handle the situation? Obviously, it wasn't handled well. So hopefully everyone can learn from this.
Good that they're updating the safety protocols and everything like that, and really taking it seriously, because you never know in this crazy world that we live in. So glad they're taking it very seriously and they're doing what they need to do on their end.
Yeah, for sure. And it's such a big story that hopefully it resonates with the wider wrestling business so that others can do so as well.
Now, I want to talk about the subject of Pride. I actually thought when I first was looking at this that it was going to be Pride FC, for Pride Fighting Championship.
More likely.
And then I was like, oh, Pride style. Maybe UFC has to do the Pride style where, the yellow carding and, they're like trying to make it more action fights, because obviously the BMF, the idea of it, that got thrown in the garbage. So like that couldn't be, like that ruined. So what is going on? What is this real Pride style? What is going on?
Yes. So of course, there's been a movement not only in pro wrestling, but other sports and forms of entertainment to carve out niches. And one of them that we've seen carved out in pro wrestling is promotions and performers and so on that is specifically not only geared to an audience that may enjoy LGBTQ plus related programming, but wrestlers as well that identify in such a way. But that's not the story here. The interesting story is, whereas this promotion kicked out of the Vegas Strip because there's a misunderstanding of who they are and what they do, or was it just a logistical issue? So The Las Vegas Review-Journal with John Katsalomidis will help us get as close to understanding the story as we possibly can. Pride Style inclusive pro wrestling's crowds relish the stage Donnybrooks in captivating subplots. The events celebrate athleticism, theatrics, and culture, but the wrestling event is feeling thrown from the ring by a more powerful combatant. The show planned for April 18th has been taken down by the Strat. The event during WrestleMania week is now set for Ferguson's downtown. The wrestling company announced March 13th on social media that the show would not be staged at the resort. Plans for a follow-up in May were also spiked, a social snafu. The move was a shock to organizers, and the Strat social media team had collaborated on promotional social posts, and tickets had been on sale on the website, but the resort says it never signed off on the production. The promotional posts and ticket listings were reportedly the result of a lapse in communication with the company. There was never a signed contract, which has been proposed for the space formerly occupied by Polyester's nightclub. The company ultimately decided not to move forward, and the venue had not been in use since 2009 and is not suitable for events in its current condition. While there was initial enthusiasm around the concept, the Strat does not have a space that meets the operational requirements for this event. Based on these factors, the company declined to proceed. No chance at the club. A nearly 30,000 square foot night spot was positioned off the casino floor and ran from 2007 to 2009. The space had been dark ever since. Company reps note that the restroom, bar, and air conditioning would need to be restored to working order, which would take significant time and money. But Pride Styles founder said that there were reasons beyond the operational requirements. It was explained to me that someone higher up saw that we were doing and thought that the show was too progressive. That was after 2 years of trying to get in and talk with them and work it out. It all came together to just come apart immediately. The Strat countered that any assertion that this event was canceled due to discrimination is false. Stunned at the development, Malote's team was energetically moving forward when informed that the shows were not happening. The founder was sent the Strat's marketing asset sheet showing the very size of the hotel's logo, which are used in promotions. He also was sent a list of base ticket prices, a certificate of liability, which listed the Strat as a certificate holder, and the artist entertainment agreement listing a $3,000 fee to be paid to Pride Style for a show at the Polyester show. So that's a little bit confusing. So it was going to be a sold show. It's a little bit confusing here. It's also confusing, John. This venue was only in use from 2007 to 2009, but they have a social media team and a website. So there's even more to this. So everyone go check out the article. Probably we'll leave it at that, but it's always curious to see the machinations of WrestleMania week and, the competition for different venues and who's going to succeed and not. So a very niche part of that world.
Very good stuff. I got to mention this too, just because, we don't cover much WWE stuff, but I just found it very interesting. We talked about Rodman making the Hall of Fame. Obviously, they put Sid in the Hall of Fame, and they just put Bad News Brown in the WWE Hall of Fame. So very kind of interesting stuff. It was at first, they announced Stephanie. You're like, oh boy, God, like what is this class? Like, man, they're really reaching it now. Not that she doesn't deserve it or whatever. It just didn't. Triple H runs the show, so it kind of seems a little odd. Even him in the Hall of Fame last year seemed a little odd. He's running the show, and he's being put in the Hall of Fame. Just was like, okay. Then they had Demolition. I was like, holy crap! Finally, the greatest tag team of history makes it. AJ Styles, kind of a shocker, but that's awesome. Then they had Rodman. Then they had Sid. Then they had Bad News Brown. I'm loving this class. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I guess the only sad part, of course, is in the history of wrestling that many of the later people
passed away,
legacy have passed away. I love Bad News Brown. I think if he came into the WWF when he was a little bit younger, I think he had like a run there, right? Like Triple W have in the 70s or whatever. But like what if he was in like 83 or 84? I think he did an awesome job. One of the things that I actually remember most, I think I saw this on tape because it was a little bit after he became a fan, is like, was it WrestleMania 4, which is actually the anniversary coming up, that he smashed the Battle Royal trophy over Bret Hart? Was that WrestleMania 4?
Yes, you are correct.
So that, and then John, we were exchanging on social media the The Harlem sewer rat, the mysterious Harlem sewer rat. I think I figured out that it was a possum.
Yeah.
So if anyone was curious, about that, we're big on rodents in my family now that we have guinea pigs. You know what? Like, I loved every era of him as well. Like, I know it's like sort of like a little niche and whatever, like the UWFI with him, like
Yep.
he fits so well. So that was great. I know, later on, he may have struggled. I'm not sure exactly, but he was a security guard, and somewhat involved in the Canadian wrestling scene. I believe his daughter is quite active on social media, so
Yeah.
I'd
Yep.
assume that she'll be out there to accept that. But well deserved. Interesting that he didn't have much of a run with some of the other major companies that I'm aware of. Like, he didn't float to NWA, WCW, AWA. If I'm wrong, I'd love to know and find out.
No, he didn't really. No.
Yeah, because he had
So-
the judo background.
Yeah, but it's so fascinating. If you actually watch his run in the WWF, he was one of the most protected guys, and I don't even know why. I loved it because it's so cool and random. He basically on TV, he only really ever lost to Hogan, Savage, and maybe Jake the Snake. It's like, holy crap, this guy never lost for real on TV, and they kept him strong. He beat the hell out of Jack Tunney. Years later, Austin beating up Vince, and that becomes the biggest thing. This guy beating up the president of the company. He's smashing trophies. He just leaves the Survivor Series team, so he never lost a Survivor Series match. He never lost at WrestleMania. Piper couldn't even beat him. You know what I mean? Just Duggan couldn't beat him. Just crazy, the way that they treat him. If you watch him and Hogan too, he doesn't take a leg drop. Hogan has to cheat to beat him. Hogan hits him with a chair. He knows so. It's like, whoa, Hogan must have such respect for him, and obviously everybody else, for them to let him kind of get away with some of that stuff. Because if that's somebody else, they're getting flattened by the chair. They're taking the leg drop. He was not taking that stuff. So kudos to the way he was booked. I loved Bad News Brown. I thought he was awesome.
Yeah, no, so many memories flooding. And you mentioned the Roddy Piper thing, of course, the controversy with Piper later, as we look at it with a modern angle, and even then. Yeah, he was such a badass. I think everyone was afraid of him. There's the story with Andre and get off the bus and whatever, that, they knew he was money, and you had to sort of keep him strong, even if he was making his way down the card. Otherwise, he would lose his, aura. And then when that, was done, that was it.
All right, Lavie. So we're going to be keeping our eye on the WWE Hall of Fame, and we're going to be keeping our eye on Triller as well. So let's wrap up this bad boy and head towards the plugs. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. How about you, Lavie?
So follow me on X. Join our Business of the Business LinkedIn group, and of course, Ultimate Fighters, Donald Trump, Dana White, and UFC's Road to the White House. I almost said Vince McMahon. I was confusing myself for a second.
Yeah, don't forget that. That's a different book, Lavie. That's a different book altogether. So thank you, everybody out there, for listening. We'll see you right back here and next week for a little Business of the Business. We'll see you next week, folks.